We're on.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting in Smith Falls Equity for All Committee for Thursday, December 11th. On December 11th, 2025, we acknowledge the sacred land which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years in its rich Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and be mindful of generations to come. I will call the meeting to order at 9:09 a.m. Looking for a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Diana, second by Lewis. All in favor? It's carried. We have our minutes from the November 13th, 2025 meeting. Look for a motion for approval. Diana, second by Lewis. All in favor? It also is carried. Well, we're great. It's great to have Ellie Halliday. She's here all the time anyway, but here is a delegation today from Cornerstone Landing Youth Services talking about homelessness and housing first in Lanark County. Welcome, Ellie, and we look forward to your presentation.
Great, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here on this side for the day. So I just thought, end of year is around, and I thought I'd give a little update about what youth homelessness looks like in Lanark County and Smith Falls.
I do. Just let me know when.
Go back one.
Go back one? Sure.
Oh, no, keep going. There we go. So for those who don't know, we're a not-for-profit here in Lanark County and Smith Falls. So we serve from Pakenham, Lanark, Montague, Smith Falls, everywhere in between. We serve about 100 youth a year between the ages of 16 to 24, and we kind of do this through two different programs, through a Housing First for Youth program and then a Transition House program. And so I thought, these are just some quotes that we've had this year from some of the youth, but I thought it's also interesting to kind of go through the roadmap of where youth homelessness started and where we are now. So if you look in 2001, the Transitions Action Coalition established with different community service members. So that was really a group of professionals and volunteers coming together. And then if you look all the way through, Cornerstone Landing became around in 2011. And we really refocused then from that traditional shelter model into that outreach and housing first for youth lens. In 2018, we started our capital campaigns, including the coldest night of the year. In 2019, we built our tiny home, our transition home in 2020, and then here we are in 2020, ending 2025. Some big numbers up there, if you notice, in 2024, the 10th year of the county housing and homelessness report came to. That was our 10-year mark. And we saw a 334% increase of youth on our by name list here in Lanark County. Next. So what we do, we work through a housing first lens, and we do that through intensive case management, rent supplements, basic needs supplies, education and employment, community referrals, wraparound, advocacy, and then our transitional house. So our rent supplements, we provide about $3,000 across the county each month in rent supplements directly to the landlords to support the creation of quick and accessible housing for youth. So that's kind of our big kind of fundraising goal. We do all that through fundraising dollars, and then our basic needs supports, we hand out gift bags throughout the year. At Christmas time, we do about 80 to 90 gift bags full of hygiene supplies, and then ideally some little extras, some chocolates or some gift cards and stuff like that. Okay, next. And so we do this through kind of housing-focused supports and trauma-informed lens, using youth-centered support and strengths-based practices to really work with the youth to make sure that they're successful and that they're set up for success, and we're not setting them up with our expectations of what they should or should not be doing. I think a lot of people look at our youth and they're 16, 17, 18, and we tend to forget that they're 16, 17, 18, and we just look at, you're a homeless individual, and you need to get a job and you need to do all these things. When in reality, our brain hasn't fully developed yet. And also we haven't been taught the life skills at 16, 17, 18. I was in no position to be paying my own rent and buying my own groceries and going to school and trying to have a job. And I think we tend to kind of see youth, as adults, and they're not adults yet. And I don't think that's fair to treat them as such. So we really try and work from that community collaboration, that harm reduction, bringing all different folks to the tables to support the youth and whatever they need. I like to think of it as offering a buffet of services, and you pick what you want. Next. Housing first. So I know we talk about housing first and the benefits of that and how it's evidence-based best practice to end homelessness. We talk about that a lot at the Smith Falls Equity for All Committee, but I just wanted to give kind of a quick run through of what housing first actually is. So housing first, not only is it a right to housing without preconditions, but it also includes youth choice, youth voice, and self-determination, which is, if I'm honest, hard to align with when you have such low housing stock. You don't always get a choice and you kind of just have to take what is available to you. But we do try our hardest to match the youth to something appropriate and something that they're looking forward to. Because if they're keen in on it, then it's likely to be more sustainable for them. We also do a lot of positive youth development and orientation. So a lot of the work we do is actually just relationship building and connecting youth to other services. So like we don't have an office. We have a storage space that's donated to us. But our staff work from their cars doing mobile outreach not 24/7, but during their work hours. And so a lot of the work that they do is driving to Tim Hortons to get a coffee or maybe going for a walk to the park, connecting to different kind of organizations, whether that's local coffee shops, which may turn into jobs down the road, whether that's just getting out and about, going to community meals like at Hanley Hall or at the table, a couple churches in Carleton Place I know we frequent for breakfast, and just really kind of looking at that full picture. If we looked back at the roadmap that I showed you, we did a survey in, I want to say 2006, of like 180 youth, and their number one thing was they really just wanted to see an adult in their life. They just wanted to have that adult connection and that adult mentorship, which is something we don't think about when we're thinking about teenagers. But it really is what they're looking for, and we see that day in and day out with our staff. We have, I've been sharing this story a lot recently. We have a young man here that we work with, and he has a young child of his own. When I say young, he's in his, we'll say early 20s. Has a young child of his own, plus his two siblings he's just taken over kinship of, and he works to afford their rent. And all he really wants is at the end of the day is like a pat on the back at 9 at night when he's done his work, he's got his siblings and his own kiddo to bed, and he just needs to be told like, hey buddy, you're killing it, like good job. You want to go for a coffee Saturday morning? I mean, that's really all they're needing, is that somebody to reach out to say like, hey, I really had a tough time. And I think that's something that we forget about again. Like, these kids are young and they're kids and they need, like, I need supports. I want to reach out to somebody at the end of my day. And so I think just trying to like change the conversation about and changing the idea and the stigma about the youth that we're working with is like really, really important. And then individual client-driven supports with no time limits. So we are really voluntary program. Like, whatever you need, kiddo, we're willing to work with you. I don't believe that you've got to be ready for housing. I think everybody deserves a home. And then again, that social inclusion, community integration. Next. And then I just kind of we've grown a lot lately. And I was doing this presentation the other day, and I had a other woman, businesswoman in the social services kind of come up to me. And, she said to me after I did this presentation, she was like, you know what, Ellie, some things do change in 10 years. And like that made my heart sing. It's it's slow and it's hard and we're grinding, but things do change and we do make progress. So these are some of the great programs that we're currently offering. So our Home Starts Here program that really looks at those financial supports, financial literacy, budgeting, trusteeship. For those who don't know, if you're under the age of 18, you can access financial assistance without a trustee. Obviously, the youth I work with do not have a trustee, so we provide that for them. We do the Youth Wellness on Wheels, which is coming to an end. That was funded by Perth Community District Foundation, which is a really great program, giving young adults $400 to do work readiness, mental health supports, or food security. I would say pretty much all of the youth used it for food security or job readiness, but job readiness not in the way that we expected it. We were expecting to see work boots and those sorts of things, maybe some scrubs and different work outfits, but we actually did quite a few driver's licenses, which I think just speaks to the rurality of where we live. We did quite a few driver's licenses. We did quite a few classes, like prescription classes as well, which was interesting. And then we did some different kind of training programs as well, which was really, really great. The expressive workshops were like one of my favorite things. So we partnered with a local female artist and local female-run cafes. So here in Smith Falls, we did it at Say2 with Amy. It was super great. She gave us her space for free. We got to bring the kids in, run a whole art workshop right in Say2, and one in Perth and one in Carleton Place. And that way the kids got to know like the staff and Amy, and they felt more comfortable going in later for coffee or to feel connected. And they also got to do some free art and take home some art supplies, which was great. Then our Good Food Box, which I know we have some keen supporters on the Smith Falls Equity for All Committee. So we provide fresh food boxes to youth across Lanark County. Thanks to the funding from Perth Community District Foundation, we've been doing about 35 boxes each month. But that funding runs out in December, and so going forward, we'll be doing that through monthly donations if anybody is interested. And then just independence, so education, re-engagement, job skill development, and long-term independence. Next. I'm not going to go through these numbers too much. It just kind of talks about how, we saw an increase of 25% in homelessness in Ontario from 2022 to 2024, which is big. But even more kind of shocking from those statistics is that we saw in rural municipalities specifically from 2016 to 2024, 150% increase in homelessness, which is crazy when you look at our urban counterparts and they only saw 50% increase in homelessness, which is crazy in of its own. But I think that just shows that we really need to be making sure that we have the correct data so that we're getting equitable funding for the folks that we serve. Because ultimately what Cornerstone wants to do is keep youth here in their community with their natural supports. And our surveys show time and time again that if youth do leave, they're not actually leaving really for supports. They're leaving because they may know somebody else and they have another place to live. But they don't actually like to leave their community. They don't actually want to leave their community unless they know somebody or unless they have a family member. So I think that just shows we need to keep them where they belong here with us. Next. This is just kind of so we had a program evaluation done at Ottawa U. We had a great partnership with them, and so they did a program evaluation for us, which really just kind of shows, you can see like the average age that we're working with and gender that we're working with. So at the end of October 2025, we had served just over 90 youth. We're now hovering right at that 100 youth mark, which is our biggest year yet. So right now we've got 50 plus being actively supported. 7 of those are parents. 1 is expecting. 3 have kinships of younger siblings. And then I mentioned our transition house. So we have a transition house in Perth, which is our 3-bedroom with an RGI unit attached, and it is full. You want to go to the next? Oh yeah, so that's me. We got coldest night of the year coming up in February. And if you have any questions, reach out. And let me know right now.
Well, thanks, Ellie. Any questions or comments?
I arrived a little bit later.
That's okay.
It was very comprehensive. Thank you for that presentation. Do you do mentorship program with the youth as well?
Mentorship for
like whatever topic that they need. Like if they need someone that they can help them with finding jobs, someone helps them
whatever they need.
Learning a trade, or just
so we wouldn't do like learning a trade because my staff are case managers, but they would make the referrals. So we're connected to On Track all the time, employment services out of Perth, and then Employment Canada, whatever it is in Carleton Place there.
Well, beside having the license, not that serious, but like working beside someone who does the job so that they can see and they learn something. They can do the basics of their own like living place, for example, or art. If there's an artist, they can work beside the artist so they learn something like pottery, because these are not only arts, but also they put their expressing themselves into what they are doing.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that we'd love to do more of. Like, honestly, our capacity is strapped. Like, I have 1 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. My part-time staff is at our transition house. So she works and does independent living skills with them. She's part-time at the house. And so whether that's going to the groceries and doing, like, budgeting, when budget bites and those sort of things, or going to a community meal. They've been, they had a great Halloween party where they set up and got the pumpkins and stuff like that. And then different kind of activities, how to clean a house, how to, they've been learning about garbage day and cardboard boxes. A story I've told it time and time again, but one of I always tell it, it's, we had a youth, I was working with him, he was homeless from the time, I'm going to say he was 14. I got connected to him when he was probably about 18, 19. And we finally got him into his own apartment here in Smith Falls. And it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It was his first ever apartment. And we got him a bed. And not only was it his first room, but it was his first own bed. He'd never had his own bed. He'd always had to share with his sibling or something, or was outside. And anyways, about a week goes by, and I stopped in to check in, see how he's going, and he's got all this garbage on his couch. And I'm like, buddy, I just found you this couch. Why is it covered in garbage? And he's like, oh, the dog's getting into it on the floor. And I'm like, okay, great, get that. But why is it in the house? And he's like, oh, Ellie, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm missing some pieces, though. I don't understand. And he was like, oh, Ellie, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you don't have anywhere to sit. And I was like, buddy, I'm really not worried about where I'm sitting. I just don't understand why we have 7 garbage bags in our living room. And he goes, well, I don't know what to do with it. And I was like, okay, well, garbage day. Let's Google when garbage day is. So we Googled garbage day, and it was, Thursday. And I was like, okay, so Thursday, you're just going to go set it to the curb. Easy peasy. He wouldn't. He'd never heard of garbage day, didn't believe it, thought I was crazy. He was like, Ellie, I can't put my garbage at the curb. My neighbors will get mad at me. I was like, nobody, your neighbors do it every Thursday. And it's just because they don't have those life lessons, right? They just don't know. And so Thursday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. so we could go put the garbage out and not be nervous about it. And, I think that's a lot of what it is those little life skills of how to manage a home, how to take care of yourself, how to stay on top of your home, right? Having a clean home, clean mind, and all those kinds of little pieces that we do. We do have a great artist who we've partnered with to do the art workshops. And she runs art workshops in Carleton Place, and as always said, if she's got a spare spot, she'll take if we can get the kiddo there, she'll take them no charge. So that's been really great. A couple of kids have participated in that. I tend to call on my hospitality friends to get some kids some training in the kitchen or do smart serves with them and that sort of thing. So we do as much as we can, but a lot of that stuff unfortunately just comes to the side of our desk stuff. It's the fun stuff that I wish I had more time for, but.
And also, I think you need also to rely on how many volunteers would like to join your team to help out with these,
Yeah, one of our main issues is we don't have a physical space. And that's something that we're looking into changing, maybe doing a drop-in center of something, because right now, I would love to have volunteers, but I wouldn't know what to do with them because I can't send them to kids' tents or cars or even their own apartments, right? So ideally, one day in the future, we'll have a drop-in space in which I can have volunteers come and kiddos can come and as they please, and that way they can have the autonomy of their home and still have that safety too. So,
thank you.
Anna?
Yeah, you kind of just touched on it at the end there, but how can people be supporting Cornerstone aside from the staff that you have? And of course, not in-person volunteering, that's okay, but is there other ways that we can be supporting, ways I can get my community members involved?
Yeah, so for me, a big thing is really that community education and just talking about it and talking about the numbers. 334% increase in youth homelessness is crazy. That's in Lanark County, right? That's insane. So I think just the more we talk about it and the more we address it and the more that we're looking at the way we're meeting people, right? I get a lot of people who are why don't they just go get a job? Well, it's hard when you haven't showered in a couple days and you haven't eaten. I don't really want to walk into Tim Hortons and apply for a job and ask for a resume. And so I think even just having a little bit of compassion in those places, right? If you are somebody and somebody brings you a resume and maybe they're looking a little down and out, maybe instead of writing them off, that's probably the person I should hire because they're probably going to work their butt off. So things like that. I'm always looking for donations of hygiene supplies. We're always doing different kind of basic needs drives and stuff like that. We've got Coldest Night of the Year, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And that provides our rent supplements. Without Coldest Night of the Year, we don't have rent supplements to give to you. So that's extremely important for us. And then, just the little things. If you have the skills, we're always looking for board members, but if you have the skills on how to support somebody get a job, or if you can offer somebody a job, whether that's landscaping or whatnot, reach out always. If you want to offer free art programs, I'm always happy to work with you and bringing some youth together. If you want to do, like, I've had some ladies reach out who want to teach kids how to quilt, so we're setting up that kind of stuff. Yeah, like any kind of way in which you want to get involved. I just don't have a lot of that, like, one-on-one time. We're hoping to build a program around that, to look at, like, have a volunteer coordinator and do some volunteer pieces like that, to have a more robust mentorship program. But right now it's really just a capacity issue.
And with coldest night of the year, what type of, like, what should I be talking about? Am I encouraging donations? Am I encouraging participation? Both.
Yeah, so both. You can encourage participation. So it's really great now. It's really become a great, like, big community event. So this year our main event is going to be in Carleton Place. We've had it in Smith Falls and we've had it in Perth before. We're going to do the main event in Carleton Place again. But Trinity Church here, United Church, great supporters. They walk here in Smith Falls with their congregation. I know last year other folks came out and joined them. Same with Perth Community Church. They did the same thing and walked in Perth. You can walk if you live out in Lanark, and you don't want to make it in, you can walk. I mean, yeah, just put a team together. It's fun. We have, like, the OPP are in, and they're competing against other OPPs in Canada. Starbucks Lanark County, like, is amazing. I want to give them a shout out. They came, like, first last year in all of Canada for Starbucks, for raising money. Our little Lanark County Starbucks. I sing their praises because they do so much. Yeah, so if you've got a team or you want to put in, I know, like, Home Depot puts in a team to compete against other Home Depots. Just doing it for yourself is fun too. And, I've got a group of girls and we've been walking for 8 years together. And so it's just a fun, like, family event. There's face painting, there's balloons. Like, it's just a good time to come out and connect.
Get LCPS involved.
Any further comments, questions? Ellie, how is Cornerstone funded?
Cornerstone gets some funding from the town of Smith Falls. We get some funding. So we get some municipality funding. So Lanark County, town of Smith Falls, town of Perth. We get some funding from Home Depot, United Way, Perth Community District Foundation. We've just connected with the OPP a little bit more. So we've got some funding from Community Safety Policing. But yeah, we have no core funding. We have no year-to-year funding. Our funding is year-to-year. We have no long-term funding. It really is just piecing together $50,000 grants, $70,000 grants, $30,000 grants, trying to mix match everybody. So, are you for rural equitable funding?
Is there any chance that, I know you mentioned there's a couple programs that are going to be ending and switching to donation funded. Is there anything else that is on the brink of not, like, is there other services that if you don't receive the funding, like, this is not going to be able to move forward or anything like that?
Like, yeah,
Anything,
like,
yeah.
come this summer, like, if I don't get more funding, like, we have no staff.
Okay.
Like, we have no core funding. So in 2024, we lost our core funding from the Reaching Home funding. So that was $120,000. And basically they just had to reshift in how they doled out that funding. I know our community partners in Leeds and Grenville at John Howard Society, they ran a Youth Connect and they lost their funding as well. So in Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville, we lost the funding. I'm not sure the total funding that John Howard Society lost, but it was basically 2 staff people as well. And so we laid off 2 staff people in March of 2024, April of 2024. And it was probably, so that's 4 staff and like 400 youth, or 200, 300 youth probably, that almost lost services. And then we were able to kind of match some funding together. But yeah, without that funding, that was a 3-year funding. So we can't apply to it till 2028, but we now have new funding, Building Better Canada or something like that. So we have to wait till 2028 to see if we can get some core funding.
Okay.
Ellie, Cornerstone's been around long enough now that a lot of the youth you worked with are adults now in their 30s, maybe some even a little bit older. Do you track some of these young people and see how their lives evolved? A
little bit. I was at a 26th birthday party a month ago for a kiddo who's still connected to. We are voluntary, so there's no mandate or requirement for them to reach out. I was at a baby shower last weekend for a 28-year-old. So, we stay in touch a little bit. I know Chris has been around our staff, the full-time staff worker, works with the 16, 17-year-olds. He's got such a bond with them because he helps, he's got 22-year-olds that don't need a trustee, but are just like, nah, Chris, it's really helpful you doing my budgeting and helping me. And so I'm sure he's got tons of youth he's still connected to. I mean, I know he does. I'll be out and about and he'll be like, oh, you're with Cornerstone. Can you say hi to Chris for me? Like, I don't know what I would have done without him 10 years ago or whatever. So we do and we don't. It's very anecdotal. We try and let the youth have their life, right? If they've exited from our program, we hope that they're doing really well and they don't want to reminisce on the hard times in their life. So we don't tend to get a lot of those stories and stuff because we don't want them to have to, hold on to those times. We want them to flourish.
Well, thank you to your entire team and all that you do for the youth in our communities. As you've said, there are more youth homeless now than there was before, despite the best efforts of yourself and the group, the team, and other organizations. We hope that the tide can turn at some point in time, but you're getting people housed, providing support, and you're making a difference. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So moving forward. Oh, so is there a question online? Oh, sorry, Linda.
Yes, I'd like to say thank you, Holly, for the presentation. It's good. I have been with Cornerstone for a few years now through my church in Perth. We do help, but the coldest night of the year, we raised $4,000 or $5,000 every year for them. We collect clothing and hats and mitts, and I believe it's well worth what the town of Smith Falls is looking at.
Thanks.
Okay, moving ahead with our agenda, we've got a few other priority issues to review. Again, for the public's understanding, we have two working groups which are formed with committee members as well as members of the public. The first one is with regards to our twinning initiative, the town's twinning initiative with Zolochiv Ukraine. And we met recently, so about 3 weeks ago, since we last met here anyway. And a number of things have happened since that time. So committee member Mark Payne had been over to Ukraine and came back. He brought some gifts that were given to him from Mayor Rinkev and his team in Ukraine, and there was a little bit to be shared with each member of the working group, which was really nice, and including some military patches of different regiments there. So very, very meaningful stuff. He also shared police and fire patches with our police and fire chief, and within that world, of course, they like to collect patches from other services, and so it's a very heartwarming event for that to be able to happen. Mark took, again, we had signed a Canadian flag and sent it over there, and some Smith Falls swag that he sent over as well. When he was there in Zolochiv, Mayor Rinkev was actually at the front, and he does do that periodically every year to assist. He has two sons who are soldiers, who are among those that are trying to, I guess, push the Russians back to where they belong. And so Mark had met with the deputy mayor, took him to the two hospitals in Zolochiv. One is about a 200-bed hospital, primarily civilian. One is a military hospital filled with soldiers. And so very, obviously, a community which, even though it's not on the front line, still feels incredible stress as a result of the war. So it was obviously really neat that Mark had the opportunity to go there and make that personal connection. Now, as well as part of Local Government Week, Carrie and I met with Madame Sega's class, and within that, grade 10 class at SFDCI. So within that, we also had a team of Zolochiv on Zoom to connect with the students, to be able to start to build a foundation for connecting the grade 10 students here with students over there. So since that time, let me see here. Yeah, so through Carrie, you do a great job, Carrie. She had contacted Zolochiv and teacher Natalia Blisic, who teaches, I think, grade 10 to 12 over there. Put her hand up and said she's very willing to be part of it. So the two teachers are working together in matching students. So trying to get some understanding, trying to put together situations where the students have some things in common and some bonds, and so they'll be reaching out to each other, connecting primarily through the written word initially. Electrical infrastructure in Ukraine is very much under attack from Russia. So I think the school has just a few hours of electricity every day. So it would be difficult for them to do like video conferencing, but hopefully that does change in the future. They talked also the ability for kids to connect even through social media. So that is advancing as we speak, and very encouraging. Chantal is outstanding. She's very committed to try and help, certainly from a real world learning standpoint, give her students the understanding and try to help them make the connections over there. As well, again, very much launched by Carrie, supported by Carrie. We did a Christmas card campaign, and within a very short period of time, we didn't have a lot of time because we had to get them sent by a certain date. It was November 27th, and we had, what was the number? 600 and 590.
490.
Sorry?
490?
490. I had it written down here, yeah.
Oh my God.
490 Christmas cards, and 590.
Was it 590?
590, yes. I have it written down.
590.
Over 500 of those, 520 were coming from students. So many students in town made handmade Christmas cards, and then a bunch of others were. So this was all packaged up, and so Gary got it all packaged up. I took it to Ottawa on November 27th to Meast, which is a based outlet of the Ukrainian post office on Green Bank Road. Peter's been there, and 6 kilograms of cards, and we sent it. So it should be there anytime. I mentioned to Mayor Rinkov that it's on its way, and he'll let me know whenever it arrives. One of the things we really want to do is ensure we had enough to provide everybody in hospital with a card, and so obviously more than enough for that. So just for a lot of these people who are receiving a card, obviously they've never heard of Smith Falls, but they know that there's a small community thousands of kilometers away which cares. And we're trying to do what we can to provide a little bit of hope in some very difficult times. So that was great to see. And then last week, Olga Yolovenko, who is one of the first Ukrainians to arrive in this area. She arrived in Carleton Place. Her daughter was living there. And she was instrumental in forming the twinning. We got to know each other through the Ukrainian Fest and other initiatives. So she, Madame Sega had wanted to see if we had a local Ukrainian who's got some understanding and some opportunity to go back and forth with connections to Ukraine. They would come and speak. So Olga and I went to the class, actually, I think there's 3 different classes last week, grade 9s and 10s, and spent an hour and a half just speaking about her own experience of leaving Ukraine. She was in Italy when the war hit. She had 2 kids who were at home. You can imagine the stress when you know that Russia. She lived near Kyiv, so knowing that Russia's intention was to take over Kyiv, and so she is trying to get back to get her kids. She initially the flights were all shut down. The skies were shut down over Ukraine, and she had to take a train ride. I can't remember how many hours. 14 hours, I think, from Italy back to get to the Ukrainian border and then into Ukraine. She originally had hoped that she would have some friends who would be able to bring her kids to the border. That didn't work out. She actually had to go back to her home, get her kids, get onto a train. And what should have been, I think, it was a 14-hour train ride back to the border. She had friends in Poland she was able to stay with. Sorry, no, she drove. She was driving. It took 3 days because of obviously the Russian aggression and having to continue to alter her route and find a safe place. And eventually got to the border, got into Poland, and was safe. But it was a very stressful, difficult time. So a very, such a first-hand experience for the kids to listen and understand the reality that people in Ukraine are facing. And so many did the same thing, right? She was among the first to get out because she saw the risk and she had an opportunity to get to Canada. And then she answered a lot of questions. And there's a lot more questions than she had time to answer, even the time we were there. So she certainly intends to go back. But I think we're really building a foundation, and getting kids involved really gives them an understanding in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. So I think it's great to see some progress on that front. And I think that's it. For any questions regarding that, Peter?
Well, thanks for all that update on that work, and especially to the high school kids. And I did notice as the word's out that we're twinned and we're doing these really modest efforts to try and support our friends around the world. I did see some pushback saying, why aren't we taking care of our own people? And the answer I have is that we can do both. We can help Cornerstone Landing, we can help people in Smith Falls, and we can in a rather simple way, help the people of Ukraine. It's not either or. We can do both. So if anybody's out there wondering why we would reach across to Ukraine, but we're also supporting Cornerstone Landing and people with food insecurity, and we can do both.
Absolutely.
So
great comment.
with some willingness and kindness, we can do it.
Thank you. Billy?
I just want to touch on that and say I agree. Like, to me, kindness is not pie. Like, just because you get some doesn't mean I get less. Like, there's lots of kindness for everyone.
Yeah.
And a couple of things just with that. There was also a need for medical supplies, and there is a challenge in getting stuff there, but we know that through MEAST, we can lock stuff up and send it at a reasonable cost. So I did reach out to the hospital and also to the county, the ambulance service, Leonard Lodge, who there may be some outdated end-of-life medical supplies, which are still perfectly good, which we may be able to collect and get over there. So we're still working on that. And also in February 16th, the Falls Food Hub is going to be hosting a Ukrainian feast. And so my family had done that a number of times in the past in early January. But February 16th. Yeah. So that's Unity Day in Ukraine.
Oh.
So it just happened to work out that way. So more details will emerge, but it's an opportunity for people to come out and be held at Hanley Hall, and an opportunity to get some great Ukrainian feast and perhaps some Ukrainian entertainment as well if you're able to line that up. So that's the update on the Ukrainian twinning, and on the food security working group. We met on November 26th. We had two delegations, City of Kingston, Councillor Brandon Tozo, and the Director of Community Development, Wellbeing, and IIDEA, Ruth Nordgraaf. I'm sorry, I pronounced that incorrectly. And so Kingston had actually prompted the town to declare food security as an emergency earlier this year. They had already done that, and we'd asked them at the time to come and talk about it with us. They come back with a bit of an update. So a few things have happened. They developed a one-time grant of $200,000 to go towards basic food program organizations in Kingston. They also took another $100,000 for what they call Fines for Food initiative. And so that is about 1 month, I think, of parking fine revenue that also went towards enhancing food security. So they made some great progress, and with support of Queen's University, they completed a food system study, identified 5 interconnected pillars, including access, infrastructure, and distribution, education and literacy, production and governance. There's 40 recommendations come out of the study, and progress continues on a number of them. And we also had a delegation from Feed Ontario. This is the organization, the province's largest sort of collective of hunger relief organizations. Works with food banks, industry partners, and local communities. They're helping to relieve hunger, drive change through research and advocacy, and continue to work on enhancing food security. So Feed Ontario provides clear insight into the work they do and are continuing to do. The reality of food banks across the province are facing a surge in demand in recent years. Most food, I think overall, demand has more than doubled over the last 5 or 6 years. Up to 1 million Ontarians who are regularly turning to food banks for help. So about 6% of the provincial population, which is regularly turning to food banks for help. And we know that with the Smith Falls Community Food Bank support over 1,000 people each month, that's probably closer to 10% here. So the reality is, organizations that were originally merged with the intention to be a short-term solution to help with food insecurity now has become, unfortunately, probably a foundation of the food security across the province and beyond, obviously.
Didn't she say something about the need has increased 4 times? Like when we said that with the Smith Falls Community Food Bank a few years ago, we were at this number and now we're at over 1,000. She was like, this is unfortunately not unheard. Like this isn't unheard of.
Yeah, I think from 2018. So yeah, our food bank was serving under 300, I think.
Yeah, we were in the 200s
and now
over 1,000. And then she was like, this is reflected across the province. Like, of course, our numbers are what they are, but other small communities in Ontario are facing the exact same. Yeah.
So they also talked about 2025 hunger report, and it was indicated it was going to be published just last week, and it has been. I took a look at it recently, and everyone should take the time to read it. 1 in 3 food bank clients are children. I think the numbers here are actually higher. I think there's times I've seen it's over 40%, maybe close to 50 of the recipients are children. 1 in 3 are people with disabilities. 1 in 4 are people who are employed but just not earning enough to be able to fulfill their nutritional needs. 3 in 5 are in social assistance. And twice as many seniors are seeking support as just 5 years ago. And that itself is extremely concerning. Their situation where they're on fixed incomes. Government programs not keeping up with the cost.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of things we've talked about as part of this working group. We understand there's not a single solution to the hunger crisis that's gripping our community. Some of the strategies we talked about are improving income. Certainly that's a big factor, probably the biggest factor. If that was solved, food insecurity would not be the issue it is today. Strengthening local food systems, reducing food waste. So Sylvia Johnson from Independent Grocer has joined our committee, and she's very committed to trying to really eliminate food waste within that environment, which includes diverting a whole bunch of food to areas that can be used. And so every day there is food going from Independent to the food bank, and it's really supported by a volunteer who goes and picks it up. There's talk of supporting the Falls Food Hub, and certainly so Sylvie's wonderful and very willing to try and help do all she can. So there's some progress on a few fronts. Other issues, of course, we recognize that minimum wage is still a factor, and recognizing that the last census suggested about half of the working population of Smith Falls are making minimum wage or not much more than that, which speaks to the challenges. Addressing social isolation, promoting healthy food education are crucial. We've talked about that. And housing is another big factor. And recognizing we've had some additional deeply affordable housing units in town, some affordable housing units added to the inventory in recent years, but it's really still not nearly enough. And with a higher cost of housing, grocery budget, that portion of the budget has been shrinking. There's so we talked about community gardens. Is something we can try to help leverage. I know that, as an example, Miller's Bay Farm are taking some fresh produce and getting to the food bank on a regular basis as well during the growing season. So a lot of things which are happening and are positive is trying to make some of those connections between potential resources to the people who need it the most. And obviously the Build a Mountain of Food campaign it's still, I just finishing up was in Smith Falls a couple of weeks ago. I understand it was quite successful. People are doing what they can to support. I guess we remind people as we come through the Christmas season to do what they can. The feedback from the food bank was that generally that would usually provide about 3 months of support. Right now it's probably about a month of support, based primarily on the increase in demand. So I don't think that the support coming is necessarily reduced. It's more about the demand is so much greater. So there's no single solution. We recognize that there's a lot more to do, and a group will continue to work. And in many ways, it's extremely there's probably a lot of things we already know. I don't think we've discovered anything that we didn't really know. I think we're hoping that there's more solutions would emerge. I think some have to some extent. The fact that the Falls Food Hub will be moving into its own space probably Q2 next year, opening multiple days a week. Possibility of having simply drop-in coffee and snacks as well as multiple meals a week will make a big difference. But we also recognize that even if the food bank is providing support for over 1,000 people a month, there's probably a lot more people who just can't get there and are struggling. So it's the effort, I don't think, can stop. Did I miss anything? Anybody else have anything to add on that?
The only other thing I guess I would add is I worked on a poster that eventually just be posted around town and basically anywhere that there's a message board. And ahead of our meeting, I believe it's December 16th next week, I'm working on I wish I printed a copy, but on the bottom of the poster is a QR code, which will bring us either to a post on the Smiths Falls Facebook page or to a page on the town's website, which details everything that's on the poster. So the most important information is it says where to get food, and it lists all of the not all of them, but many locations in Smiths Falls where you can get a free meal. So the hub is on it, the food bank's on it, a bunch of churches are also there, the Good Food Box is there as well, which of course is not a free food program, but reduced, as well as easy ways to save at the grocery store. So things like flash foods and Too Good To Go. So I'm working on that, and ahead of our meeting, December 16th, right? It's next week on Tuesday, I believe. So hopefully I'll have an email sent to you, Sean and Carrie, ahead of that, just with some basic content there. And then ideally, the poster would be it's short and sweet with the fact that we have declared a food insecurity to be a state of emergency in Smiths Falls last year or in April 2025. And then the where to get food, scan the QR code, and it would list their addresses, availability, what days of the week it's available, especially because, for example, the food hub is on Monday, and then there's churches where I have to look at the email, but they're Wednesday and Friday. So it just, every day of the week, there is somewhere to get food. The question is, how do people know that? So that's in the works right now. I should have printed a copy. I would have been so happy to hand out a physical copy right now. But yeah, I will recirculate it. And I showed everybody at the last committee meeting an old draft. So now there's an updated one. So I'll send an email just to make sure everyone has seen it. That's it. That's my only bit to add.
Great. And they'll make a meaningful difference. And I agree, communication and the lack of understanding the community sometimes is these gaps.
Yeah. Well, especially one of the things that we're talking about constantly is that people don't know that there are things out there and very hesitant to reach out to those services, partially due to stigma, but also it's really easy for folks, especially if they are working, to self-minimize their situation and say well, these aren't for me. These are not services that I should be using. And the services are there for everybody to be using if you have the need. So hopefully I don't want us to see an uptick with the amount of people going to these services due to the poster, but at the same time, it would be nice to know that people are getting food. So,
well done. Thank you. Any further comments or questions on that?
I would say I believe we have talked about it before. I was thinking one of the good ways of to help this situation is to maybe reach out to the local farmers, the ones who would like to donate some of their, seasonal crops to the food bank. I'm not sure if you have a community outreach worker in the city who can.
Last winter, last spring, I just emailed Miller's Bay Farms and connected them because I'm a part of their Bountiful Basket program, and so I connected them with Janet at the Food Hub, and I know they were in contact, so I'm assuming that led to increased produce for them as well. And I know they also are partnered with the Smiths Falls Community Food Bank. But I don't know about the other farms in the area.
I know just from speaking with the food bank, they do get a lot of fresh vegetables like through the growing season. A lot of people locally, I think what the number was, which there's one gentleman locally who grew like 500 or 1,000 rutabagas and brought them to the food bank. So there is an effort, right? And maybe some of the awareness will prompt more people to do that.
And the tomatoes, like.
Yeah, there may be, there's not a lot of local farmers doing produce, but there are some. And Miller's Bay is one example where they are making those regular donations to the food bank, but maybe we can look towards connecting in the future with any other ones, and maybe a broader communication as we work towards the spring that if you have some room in your backyard, you enjoy gardening and you want to grow some food and provide support for people in the community, then make those connections.
Yeah.
Ellie?
Just something that I did a couple years ago during COVID did like tomato plants. Like I garden myself, but I had extra plant, like seeds cost $3, so I just planted like an extra 20 plants and just gave them to all the kiddos and said, this is how you take care of a tomato plant. There's a pot, put it in your window, on your balcony, on your deck, and like terrific, easy. Didn't have to do the deliveries or the drop-offs and stuff. And they got to learn how to take care of a tomato plant.
Probably very proud that when they eventually get that fresh tomato.
Yeah, the pictures of their first tomato like made my heart sing.
Well, and I remember, is it Sylvie or Sylvia?
Sylvie.
I remember she was saying with their garden center in the summertime, once they're taking it down, they are ending with like tons of seeds and little seedlings, kind of sad looking seedlings that people don't end up wanting. And so they have, once they're taking that, they just are like, who wants this? We can't sell it this year because the seeds are for a specific year to be sold. And so then like this could be a great opportunity for us as well. I don't know. I'm thinking about the backyard gardens too. Like if it was like a campaign, like, because I can see I would love to do that. And I can think of other people who would want to do that. And then I just know in the back of my mind that we're also going to hear like, well, what did they get out of it? Of course, it's the goodness of your heart to be donating, but is there like a subsidy? Is there a way that they can be recognized as like a great Smiths Falls community member? Like, is there just something small that they can also feel like they're doing a good thing? Because it's human nature for people to be like, well, what do I get? Why am I using my backyard to donate?
People love a photo.
It might also help
literally, I'm like,
reset the mindset from the 80s and 90s, the times of plenty, to like, no, we should start doing victory gardens again. It's a thing we should all probably start getting in the mindset of again.
Well, I think so. Real has some community gardens. There's also the community carrot garden behind the Heritage House Museum. I'm not sure it was even used this year. And that came out probably 10 years ago, where some people wanted to have a community garden and needed some space for it, so the town made the space available. I think what's missing really is just volunteers.
yeah.
And a community this size, if there was, I don't know, a dozen or a dozen volunteers who would be committed to providing support for people through the growing season, I think, so who would be willing to operate a community garden, or potentially even if people want to have a garden in their own backyard, and on the basis that someone would come in and prepare it, maintain it, and then you get your share of the produce. The rest would go to the food bank, the food hub, with all the coordination. But there's always possibilities if there's that volunteer.
I might know a few people that might be willing to take on. I might know a few people that might be willing to take on at least a bit of that task.
And the other thing too is even those people who are volunteering could also get some of the fruits of their labor too, right?
I know Katie has said previously that she's connected to a lot of volunteers through the Old Home Week, and that like they have access to volunteers. So maybe there's something here. I could also see us doing like a campaign of like know your neighbor, because now like it's often that people are like, oh, I've lived here for ages and I don't know who my neighbor, but it's like that's actually not a good thing. Or this hyper individualism of just like it's me and mine that matter, me and my family, but it makes a big difference to know your community members. And like, I'm thinking about, I've already talked about it with maybe doing like a community garden in my backyard, but it's specifically for my neighbors, and going and saying like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Like, are you interested in, when I do the harvest, do you want tomatoes? Do you want this? And it leads to better exchange of like, my neighbors were out snow blowing other people's driveways today because they know that across the street he's physically disabled and he's going to be trapped in his home otherwise. Like, but if you don't know your neighbor, like you don't, even just these little bits of maybe they are food insecure. Like I think about that when we talk about that it's like 1 in 4 houses. I look at my house and I go, okay, well I can see 4 houses from here. I know it's not me. So it could be everybody else on my street. Like
Peter?
I do know, or it's my understanding that the food hub, when it's up and operating, that is really one of their key, is to do this coordination of. So it's not that our committee shouldn't, but I think in collaboration with that's their whole, it's so much more. It is
a
about,
hub. Yeah, it's not
hub.
just
So
the food bank. Yeah.
it's not that we should run parallel, we
This is where we
collaborate. So
Yeah.
these are great ideas, but that was what the intention, and it still is. So
Yes. So that's maybe something when we can connect with the Food Hub Committee, and I'm on the committee, and Janet is, she's not here today, but and see about if that's something that, if they have the capacity to try to help carry that forward, or maybe some other developments, or that neighborhood garden program or gardening program.
Yeah, it's not even that the committee has to like take this, but it shows that we're all having those ideas. Like we're all seeing those same, like we have those same ideas. So yeah, no, I think that's great. It makes sense too, because it's the food hub. It's not just, it's about being a community hub.
Still evolving.
Yeah, exactly.
And can I add something?
Mitra?
What something that they can also do is that to make a gala, to hold a gala, maybe at a specific time of the year, for example, Thanksgiving or Christmas time, for a minimum amount of price on the tickets so that people can buy and enjoy a good meal with their family, and then they fundraise and put that towards their own food source or towards the food bank. I haven't heard any galas like happening.
Well, the Falls Food Hub has its Christmas dinner next Wednesday, the 17th. So at Hanley Hall on the 17th, it's a Christmas dinner, 5 to 7. I know last year it was beyond capacity, but just again, if you want to get out and connect, there's an opportunity to do so. Everyone's welcome, obviously, and I think they're preparing for 300 to 350
That one's the
meals.
3.
No. I was talking about the paid one, so that people of the community can put together the money that they are paying for this meal, so that it goes towards one of these causes, either the food bank or the Falls Food Hub. Yeah.
Thank you. Katie, did you have something else to say?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so moving forward, let's talk about community grants. So many of you may be familiar or not familiar. The town, for a number of years, has provided what's generally been 1% of tax revenue as to fund a community grants program. Ellie made reference of it, I guess, when you were speaking earlier. Hope you applied again this year.
I did.
Sure you did.
And it's 1%.
We just have to
1%. So that's going to be somewhere around 210, 220,000. So it's a significant amount that supports a whole bunch of causes. The maximum grant is 25,000, I believe. And the Falls Food Hub received 25,000 last year. The food bank hasn't applied before. I'm not sure if they have this year or not. But I guess the reason I put it on here is just there's a lot of important causes in the community. And should there be a priority for supporting food programs within the community, whether that be meals, food bank, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to put that on there, open it up for discussion.
I personally know a group
Sorry,
of people.
Diana had her hand up first.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see.
I'm just wondering what the, like for this grant, what is the assessment criteria? Like, how do you decide who gets the grant with whatever point system we're using or anything? Like, what are we assessing within the grant content?
So there is a scoring matrix. Do you want to talk about it, Carrie?
Sure, because I sit on the committee that reviews them. So there is a scoring matrix that we use, and it all depends on whether it's an event or like some type of social service program. So it's based on the assessment. So we've got 2 pages of criteria that we base them on, whether there's clear objectives and targets, If there's a diverse funding base, the population it serves, the percentage of population it serves, if it's provided at no cost to the general public, obviously they have to provide us with some sort of budget, whether it's proven partnership development throughout the community, and if it's responsive to the needs of underserved and equity-seeking populations. So there is there is a very comprehensive
For
scoring
that
matrix.
last one, the responsible for like the underserved and equity,
Project
is there additional points associated with hitting that criteria specifically?
So in the actual application process, there is check boxes, and the person who's ever filling it out has to denote on it if it's serving youth, if it's serving people, seniors, or I forget all the ones.
I think she's asking, is it weighted? Is there a heavier
Yeah,
score
like would
to-
if somebody is, if I'm applying and I want to do a project, a community project, and I'm serving upper middle class nuclear families versus Ellie's applying and is for the Cornerstone, like in my head, Cornerstone should be weighted higher because it has more need.
So it is based on, so that, like I said, in the application, they can check off the parts of the population that it serves, whether it's people with disabilities, et cetera. And it does, the way this matrix is set up is that it's scored on does not directly support any of them, and then right up to supports all four.
Okay, so they
there's
get points versus just not getting any
Yeah.
points for that. Okay. I work for Canada Council for the Arts, so like grants and how to assess grants is all that's what I'm going to go home and do. So that's why I was like, what are we deciding?
It's all online too. Like you
Okay.
can find the matrix
Oh,
online.
amazing.
Like I went through the matrix when I did my
Did
application.
I not send it out? I thought I sent out.
I think you did send an email about community grants after the last meeting, and I
Yeah.
need to go back and look. Okay, community
So
grants.
the deadline was November 30th for 2026, and staff were in the midst of
reading them
processing
now.
all of the
Staff, do they
applications.
score not?
Yeah,
Yes,
staff. It's like an
exactly.
internal competition. It's the staff that's assessing it, and they
Mhm.
decide, and then you guys announce at some point.
The staff, so initially back in the day, it just automatically came to the council table, and we would take up entire budget meetings talking about community grants. So about maybe
Deserving.
no more than that, maybe
2015, about 10 years ago.
2 terms ago, we took it out of council's deliberations, and it went to a staff committee, and then staff does it based on this matrix, and then it comes to council with a whole chart with the scoring on it. And then, I mean, council ultimately has the final say, and we also hold delegations for anybody who's requesting 10,000 or more. They have to come and present to council.
Okay. So anything that's 10,000 and under would be considered a smaller grant, and then if it's 10,000 and up, for example, you'd be coming here if successful, and then providing a presentation.
I come before, so
Okay.
because so I'll just be open. I asked for 20 grand, so I'll have to come probably in January and give a presentation along with Big Brothers Big Sisters, Falls Food Hub, all the other partners who asked for over 20, and then after that they make their decision.
Okay. It's like a pre-qualified.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we actually enter into a memorandum of understanding for the groups that are asking for more funds, just for protection of the taxpayers, to ensure that that money is going where they say it's going.
Mitra.
I reached out after you said that there is this piece of land behind the Museum of Heritage, to see if people can access that and do their own gardening activities, because I know a group of people who are really interested in doing gardening, and there are people who have the tools and the machinery. They know the know-how of it and everything. So they said that they volunteer to start the base so that people can come and put the seeds in. I asked the Museum of Heritage people, and they said that the land is always reserved and used by this other organization. I'm not sure about their name, but
Okay, so we'll check on that. We can check with Stephanie or Trevor, or I guess whether.
Probably the horticulture.
yes, horticulture.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
So my point is, sometimes people may not be comfortable using their own private space of their house, their property, to share it with everyone. That's quite understandable. considering the fact that there are so many things happening in the community. People like to do this activity, but independently. Somewhere
can-
that is inside the Smith Falls, they don't need to commute, but they can reach to.
So we can see about other public land.
Yeah,
Maybe
that was something that I
like
wanted to bring
a
to
couple
your
spots in
attention.
mind. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Peter?
So just to answer your question, I think council might want to consider for 2027 a review of our criteria and look at food security as having a, I think that's what you're,
Yeah,
so I think we should revisit it for the following year, knowing, or revisit our 1% share. So,
that's the other part of the equation.
right.
Peter just said exactly what I had my hand, I was like, maybe there's the potential for even 1.5%, 1.75. It doesn't need to be a huge increase. And then the other thing I was going to say, and I mentioned this, I forget if it was at the food insecurity meeting or here, but with the scoring matrix and the town's objectives, but if one of the objectives of the grant is that it touches on one or all of the pillars of this committee, for them to receive increased points. So I just think that's another area we can go. So it sounds like this is, of course, not something that can be done immediately, but perhaps for the future granting round, just to be centered around the goals of this committee. I don't know if that's allowed, because I guess I just don't know what other projects aside from social services have been funded last year.
Events.
Okay,
Events.
Music,
Music.
festivals.
Yeah.
like Porch Fest or something like
Yeah.
that.
That's a good example.
Okay, well,
So
which
that's-
is also important. For
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Peter?
And so just when we talk about increasing it, it means that 1 in 4 seniors, I think you said, were going to the food bank. So a lot of them might own homes, so we're going to increase their property taxes to increase this percent so that we can help them with food insecurity. So it's a delicate balance. Not everybody, but
Yeah.
it's like council struggles with that, obviously.
So I would say, like, for change in the community grants criteria for this year, you'd have to do it long before you put the criteria out. Wouldn't be fair if we
Of
changed
course.
it.
Yeah.
I would.
So it'd have to be done for next year. But the other thought would be, as council, is it is still in budget deliberations, still early budget deliberations. Is there merit to saying, well, do we do a special allocation towards food security? Maybe it's a 0.5%, and then develop a methodology that different food security organizations could apply for a share of that funding. So we've had our first draft of the operational budget this week, and there's still a lot of work to do, but we know we're already facing what's probably going to be a fairly big tax increase. We don't not certainly at this stage, but there's a lot of things that have to change, I guess, if we're going to carve it down. Adding more creates obviously some concern and pushback. A 0.5 probably would be less than $20. Less than $20 a year. Less than $20 a year on the average taxpayer, probably. So is there merit to potentially saying, well, would people be supportive of saying, well, I don't mind providing another $20, and then maybe that would lead to roughly a little over 100,000 that could go towards food security.
I feel like one of the problems we might see with that, and you said it earlier, which is that a lot of the Smith Falls residents are barely making above minimum wage. And so although it's just $20 is $20. Like if you're only making $24 an hour, $20 is like, that's an hour of work for something that I might not see. And so I would be more interested in how we can redirect funds from areas that have been seeing a budget increase and a funding increase back into the community. For example, in the last budget, the Smith Falls Police Department received quite a budget increase and community services did not. However, if we want to be a proactive community and we want, not to say like to use police less, but like to have a better community, we need to be funding the community rather than a reactive, like continuing the same cycles. So I would be
Better
more
balance.
interested. Yeah, I would be more interested in how we can get this 0.5 from other places rather than directly from taxes. And then the other thing I was wondering is I was very interested in Kingston's fines for food. I've never gotten a parking ticket here, but like, what kind of fines does Smith Falls have? Like, is there revenue there? Is there a way we can be doing what Kingston is doing and doing a 1 month of fines goes to food? I would just be more interested in kind of these alternative approaches before saying I support us increasing the taxes when we know that so many of the Smith Falls community members are already strapped for cash as it is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this topic?
Just something,
Adrian?
a flashback about the Ukrainian group. Sorry, I'm a little bit far from the topic because I haven't been able to participate actively. Just that, cannot we use I understand that there is always like commutes between the Canadian Armed Forces and Ukraine. Can we reach out possibly to them to see if we can use their facility in terms of
That's been
sending goods back and forth?
that's been sort of considered. Yeah. No, thanks. Okay. Moving forward, Bill 60, and that was approved by the provincial government. I think end of November, if I have the date right. And there's a lot of elements to this. But the one that seemed to have gotten most of the concerns expressed by certainly tenant groups, advocacy groups, is those that potentially would lead more people to being evicted. And so Carrie passed out the handout from the Advocacy Center for Tenants Ontario. Issue 1, less time to rent an eviction. So Bill 60 gives tenants only 7 days to pay any rent owing and an N4 notice before the landlord can apply to the LTB for eviction. Tenants currently have 14 days. And sometimes that extra week gives people the time to scramble and get the money or have some income coming in. 7 days obviously seems quite short. Second piece, the right to raise tenant issues at rent arrears hearings further restricted. So tenants would lose the right to raise their health and safety issues at their arrears hearing under the Bill 60 unless they meet strict advance notice requirements to pay 50% of the rent alleged as being owed up front. Bill 60 would also allow governments to define persistent late payment in a way that would limit landlord-tenant board discretion to consider the circumstances that could result in more evictions. Restrict LTB consideration of tenant circumstances to postpone an eviction. Bill 60 allows the government to set out the factors that the LTB can consider when deciding whether to postpone the eviction to account for a tenant's personal circumstances. Right to review errors and decisions restricted. Bill 60 would shorten the time to request a review of LTB decision to 15 days, currently 30. And restricting the use of set-asides to evict tenants without a hearing. Bill 60 would allow the government to set out the conditions that must be met for the LTB to grant a set-aside motion of a default eviction order, an order without a hearing resulting from the breach of a mediated agreement. Right now, the tenant can file a set-aside motion to pause the eviction, request a hearing. And then the final one, tenant compensation eliminated. Bill 60 will remove the 1 month rent compensation for landlord own use and 12 evictions, which sometimes we know are not valid, been used in the past in valid ways. More sheriffs to evict tenants instead of improving the LTB to prevent evictions and build affordable housing. The resources would be important to evicting tenants from their homes by having more sheriffs and creating a bad tenant database. Tribunals in Ontario is exploring the creation of an online database for LTB decisions that in effect will act as a blacklist for tenants. So this has been passed and it's in place now. I think it does create additional risk for tenants in a community where we have about 47% of our citizens who rent their homes. It does create some concerns. I don't know if anything can be done at this stage. Maybe if we can my suggestion today is that we consider this and maybe we bring it back. If Carrie, in the meantime, we can check and see if there has been pushback from municipalities, and advocacy effort if we wanted to consider maybe adding our voice to that. I think there's certain risk. We understand what is motivating the province to do it. They believe it's the tenant rights as they stand today are limiting development. I'm not sure that's accurate, but it does create risk. Any comments, Diana?
I'm particularly concerned about the creating a bad tenant database. Specifically, if the reason why individuals are getting put on this list is due to being late on rent and they're not able to have their personal circumstances considered, whether that's illness, whether that's who knows, and considering our rising rates of homelessness, if we're seeing an uptick of people who are essentially, it literally says that in effect will act as a blacklist for tenants. I'm concerned that we're going to see an increase in homelessness from this list alone. And I'm also interested to know what it means to say, make their personal information publicly accessible. What level of information regarding if they were evicted, what is available to the public to know, what would be available about this. So, yeah. I saw
Peter?
Well, it's possible that this is, these are good questions. It's possible that the legislation's been written and the regulations haven't been with all those details. So you may have an opportunity, but we don't know that. And I suspect, I'd like to think that there's a lot of detail that we don't have here.
I can only hope.
But the regulations may not be written on it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll pass it and then the details get added. So a lot of groups may have influence in those kind of details. I don't know that, but we could find out more.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see opportunity. Lewis?
It's basically just a comment of, it seems that the provincial government is making these changes, and as far as our group is concerned, it is simply going to increase the temperature and the speed of which we will need to react to the growing food and tenant issues, because, well, all the issues, if they do materialize, let's say they, like, only half of them do, all of the problems are going to fall on us to deal with as opposed to the provincial government to deal with. So it's mostly just raising the temperature on our committee to speed up and further push stuff because of the actions of the provincial government.
Thanks, Lewis. I think Diane's got a further comment.
Well, it reminded me of us working on that renovictions bylaw, and I guess I'm just curious to know what else is possible at the municipal level to hinder the use of like unfair evictions through the passing of this bill. I don't know if anything is possible. I didn't know previously that we could have a renovictions bylaw. So I guess I'm just curious to know at a municipal level, is there any way that we can be acting not against Bill 60, but with our own motivations and objectives in line of, we want to be increasing folks in housing. We want to decrease food insecurity. I don't know what's possible in that regard.
So let's park this and bring it back next month for further discussion. Maybe a little more information by then.
I'm not here next month.
Okay, Heart Hub opening. Yeah. And it was my pleasure last week to be, and Peter was there as well, the grand opening of the Heart Hub. 28 planned for Ontario. I'm not sure how many are open yet, probably somewhere around half. I think we're probably the smallest community that has a Heart Hub. This is an effort from Leonard Leeds Addictions and Mental Health. They're part of a sort of a satellite of the Brockville Heart Hub, which will likely be open sometime in next spring. The opportunity we had here, of course, is to serve Smith Falls and Lanark County. And I think the big advantage that created this now was the fact that we had space here. Space that could be easily converted into a Heart Hub. So the Associate Minister was here in a Gasalon to we've heard of it last week, and I think we owe a lot of gratitude to our MPP, John Jordan, and MPP Steve Clark. I know both were very aggressive in trying to ensure that hard hub would land in Brockville and Smith Falls. So those who may not familiar, this is basically a new resource for people struggling with mental health and addictions. And it's a low barrier entry. It is a publicly funded access to treatment. So there is no withdrawal management happening in Smith Falls. That'll happen primarily at Brockville General for the time being. And I know that when we did the opening last Friday, there were people who were just finishing up their withdrawal management and were moving in here on Monday. So there are people living in here now. Very well resourced. I think I'm very, very confident it's being extremely well run and will make an incredible difference in our community. So if you look at the positives that have happened here in recent years, this is one, I think, which is the most meaningful because it will save lives. It will give people an access to treatment that really has not been, certainly not readily available and hardly available at all. The way it's been until this point is anyone seeking treatment would have to go out of our community and generally subject to a wait list, which makes it extremely difficult unless they can pay for it themselves, which the barrier of that cost has made it basically inaccessible. So very happy to have this here. It's going to make a big difference for our community. So any questions or comments? No? So, and again, I think get the word out. It's low barrier access, and right now I'm not sure what the capacity is, but it will likely fill up quickly. So there's 8 treatment and recovery beds, rooms, as well as 9 supportive housing rooms. So from a continuum of care, it's a matter of bringing people in where they're at, getting them the type of treatment support that they're going to need as they move into recovery and then move into more independence. They have those supports to ensure that when they eventually do move on from there, they're in a good place. Okay. Planning for 2026, Carrie.
I threw this on just to get our brains around 2026. I know last year we had a table at the Old Home Week Committee, but now's the time. I just sent Paul Dober an email to see what's left in our budget and if that's been carried over for the next year. Just if we can, I got to update the listing I have of delegations we want and everything. But if everybody can just put their mind around maybe some of the things we want to do for 2026. And I know things just crept up, like the working groups wasn't something that we initially had planned, but it's actually became very fruitful, both those committees. So with our next meeting will be in January. So it's just a good time to update what our objectives are and what we want to do with the funds we have for that year. So I don't know if people want to send any ideas my way and I can add it to the list, or we can just have a good brainstorming session in January. But we don't have Old Home Week next year, so we might want to do something as standalone. Something.
Just it's a combination of for 2026 and future agenda items, but is that Smith Falls partnered with Lanark County to conduct a feasibility study for a transportation plan.
Good point.
And I think it would be helpful if this committee had an opportunity to look at the plan and to make some recommendations to council. Because we've received the study and I'm excited about it. It's about an affordable, municipally subsidized transportation throughout Lanark County and ultimately within our community, an actual transportation system. So great potential, and it might be good for this committee to have unpack a little bit. Council would love to hear from groups, I think.
I wonder if we could, those that presented to council, if they'd be able to do it, to a delegation to committee in January.
I could certainly ask.
Okay.
It's just, it ticks a lot of our boxes.
The other thing to remember, this as we move into January, this will be the last year of this council. And I think it'd be important to sort of look at where we began, where we are, and obviously what do we want to make sure we accomplish before the end of this term, not knowing if this committee will even continue on beyond this term. Each council determines its structures, right? And support. So I think a lot to discuss. Be a good way to start the year.
Sorry, when's the election? When does this term end?
Did you just ask?
Sorry.
October 26, 2026.
September 26th.
You look for nomination day, Ellie?
Nope. No, I'm not.
That's
Nope.
different though. When do you have to have your nomination?
I don't care. I'm not.
People can start filing in May.
Mm-mm.
Nomination days in August.
So your deadline to throw your hat in the ring is
In August, yes.
Great. And it's easy to do, right? You help people do it.
Mhm.
Few bucks and
$100
Some
for council,
signatures.
200 for mayor, 25 endorsements.
Yeah.
Have to be 18, have property in
Canadian.
Smith Falls, Canadian citizen.
yeah, it's easy. And have a good heart.
It's
Yes.
most important.
Most important.
Yeah, good social conscience, good heart.
Get the Anubis scales out when you get sign in, when you get sworn in.
Encourage you to run if you're wanting to make it better as opposed to I hate everything that we're doing and tear it all apart. So people are motivated by different things, but
Okay, well, thanks, everybody. On the agenda, feelings for discussions, a lot to happen, a lot to discuss in January when we next meet. Do you want to set a meeting date,
There's already one set.
which is?
It is, did I put it on here?
January 8th.
January 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm out of the country, so I'm gonna miss that meeting, but I will send an email with my thoughts for 2026.
Okay, excellent. Okay, motion for adjournment. Wait, Diana, second by Mitra, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
So I will send an email.
This doesn't always get used. I don't know.
I don't use it enough.
That-
It's been here since I've been
Like,
here. and
things that you would like to put
Pretty
some
much.
money aside for.
I've never had
Some
to use this
suggestions.
meeting.
Strong mayor.
Never had to. I know. I've been waiting for the opportunity, but people are just too good and too
All
respectful.
right, guys.
Somebody come barging into one and just.
Next meeting, let's be disrespectful. Let's get this
Yeah.
gavel.
Yeah.
Louis, do you have a relative that lives in Smith Falls as well?
My parents live here.
Thought so.
Yeah. You probably met.
I don't know.
Your
Yeah.
dad's emailed.
Oh, I'm sure he has. Yeah, that sounds.
No, it's very nice.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I'm literally like.
Yeah.